Howdy, welcome to Horticulture Innovators, the podcast series where we will explore impactful innovations in horticulture. I'm Amit Dhingra, your host. I'm a professor and head of the Department of Horticultural Sciences at Texas A&M University. In each episode, we'll explore the inspiring stories of the pioneers who are contributing to sustainability, wellness, and food security through their amazing work in horticulture. Howdy! Welcome, Paul and Teresa. Today, I'm really honored to have two of my mentors, friends, colleagues. Ever since I started my PhD, I've learned from them every time I've met them. So, Dr. Paul Christou and Dr. Teresa Capell, thank you for joining us today for our podcast, which is titled Horticulture Innovators. And so today we're going to discuss about some of the challenges in food systems, and you've done so many projects which are not just local but global in nature. And we really wanted to talk about your journey, how you got here. Maybe we could start with you, Dr. Capell. How did you get involved in the work you do, and maybe speak a little bit about the type of work you do as well?
Thank you, Amit, for inviting us.
Yeah.
Thank you, head of the department. It's an honor to be here and to be next to you. How I started all this, I'm coming from a farming community, and I learned from inside all the problems that farming has. And if we want a sustainable way of grow our crops, we really need to apply science to this. This is how I started my career, by doing a degree in pharmacy, learning about natural products, how to increase the natural products to protect the plants by themselves. And then from here to biotechnology was just one step. And learning how to introduce genes was the next step.
Wow.
Then it was just a personal adventure to sort out the farming problems.
Cool. Dr. Christou.
Well, I would like to start by also thanking you, Amit, for the invitation and the opportunity and the great hospitality. And we are really enjoying our time here very much. Now, how did I start all this? I started my scientific career with a PhD in chemistry at the University of London. But when I finished my PhD, it was the time when molecular biology really started impacting plants. So I made the switch gradually by first doing a postdoc in plant biochemistry. And then I had the great fortune to be recruited by the very first plant biotechnology company in the world, in the United States, Agracedas, which was based in Madison, Wisconsin. And that's where I started my journey in plant biotechnology.
That's so cool. And first of all, congratulations. You've recently reached superannuation. You've just retired, which I know doesn't mean anything for you because you must be busier than before. But as we read the historical accounts of plant biotechnology, your name comes up that you were one of the first people, or if not the first person who introduced foreign DNA into soybean using gene gun. Can you share that sort of first experience, and what type of gene guns were those?
Well, that takes me back to the mid-1980s.
Wow.
So when I was recruited by Agracedas, I had just finished my postdoc at the University of London, and I was hired to develop a transformation system for soya.
Okay.
So I arrived in Madison, Wisconsin in December 1982. It was 30 below.
Wow.
It was the first time I experienced extreme temperatures, and I said, okay, that's interesting. Let's see how things develop from here. So anyway, when I got to Agracedas, I was the fifth scientist they recruited.
Wow.
And then our director, Winston Brill, gave us a free hand and a mandate. The free hand was to use whatever means possible to be the first group in the world to develop and patent gene transfer methods for the three most important U.S. crops: corn, cotton, and soya. And I landed soya, not because I had any prior experience with soya, just because I guess it was the luck of the draw. So I took this assignment, and Winston said, okay, we have 18 months to develop a transformation system for soya. If you are successful, we all have a job. If you are not, 18 months from now, we need to pack up and go home.
Okay.
So we started, and in the end, we managed to develop a specific particle gun using electric discharge acceleration to propel microscopic gold particles into a meristem or a growing tip of soya embryo. And that's how we were able to generate the first transgenic soya in 1986.
And that got commercialized, I heard, right?
Well, that work was done under contract from Monsanto.
Okay.
And essentially the outcome of those experiments was the very first Roundup Ready soya, who proved to be the progenitor of the early generation of Roundup Ready soya that were commercialized by Monsanto.
Well, I don't think people realize, but today in the US, I think over 95% of soybean are transgenic, and they are all Roundup Ready.
Correct.
So the work you did that in the 80s is having this global impact, not just here. Anywhere soybean has Roundup, that is the... So that's just, I just wanted to put that in context, how you do something which can have long-lasting impact like this. That's just amazing. And I mean, on similar veins, Teresa, you've been involved in several projects, and you're at University of Yeda. And over there, what are some of those early projects that you started working on that continue to propel further some of the work you're doing?
You need to realize that in there we can work with transgenics, but we cannot plant them.
Okay.
Then our research is most on cereals, but basic research, because we cannot do it translational. Then the project that I got most excited with was when we did the beta-carotene corn.
Yeah.
We introduced the beta-carotene pathway into corn. And I mean, the first seed we saw, that it was a picture that a PhD student we had, Shaista, sent to us. When we saw this grain of corn that instead of yellow was tomato red.
Wow.
It was really, really impressive. That means we knew we could achieve it.
Yeah.
Then we developed the whole project. I mean, from few grains, we went to 1,000 kilos. And we did analyze it, and we really increased the content of provitamin A in this corn that could be used for lots of things, for human consumption and also for animal, to make pinso. And this was where we took the project, to make flour and then do different tests, giving it in a diet in chickens, in hens, in pigs, and even we did a human trial. If we could manage to pass the provitamin A to blood in humans, but it was not possible. But we reached even this point. We also demonstrated by using rats in chronic experiments that this did not have any bad effect on animals.
Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
that it was good. It was a very complete experiment.
Wow. Well, I wanted to say that it was 1999. I was a graduate student, and I saw that Ingo Porticus released the golden rice at the time. And that is the time the statistics said that 90,000 infants die because of provitamin A deficiency every year in India alone. And unfortunately, there has been just so much challenge with that adoption of that. But people have heard about the golden rice, but not about the golden corn. Where does it sit right now? You said you were feeding it to a chicken and hens. Has that been commercialized?
Not, no,
Oh,
it
not
did
not
not.
yet.
Because, in Europe we have a difficulty
yeah.
for commercializing transgenic
Yeah.
crops. But perhaps Paul could elaborate a little bit more in our African partners.
We developed this corn with the intent to pass it on to colleagues in South Africa,
Okay.
who would then deregulate it and disseminate it throughout sub-Saharan Africa. Unfortunately, the potential product got embroiled in the South African regulatory system, and also it received a lot of legal challenges from environmental organizations who characterized it as a Trojan horse to introduce transgenics into sub-Saharan Africa. And in the end, the legal challenges became so formidable. So our collaborators decided not to pursue it any further, regrettably.
And currently, I think I remember, I met you first when I was starting my PhD. So you've been an inspiration, and then I got to meet Teresa. The kind of projects you do are really transformative, not just transformation of the plant, but also they can have a major impact on people's health. Just the molecular farming platform that you both have been pioneering in, it's kind of a shame. I just wanted to understand, what is the beta carotene level in corn without this engineering, and how much enhancement do you see?
Okay, in a carotenoid context, there are two different types of corn,
Okay.
white
Yeah.
and yellow.
Yeah.
White corn makes trace amounts of lutein and zeaxanthin, which are the yellow pigments that are in the macula of our eye. So if people eat white corn, they get absolutely no carotenoids. Now, yellow corn contains between 1.5 and 3.5 micrograms per gram lutein and zeaxanthin. However, corn does not make provitamin A carotenoids.
Okay.
So our high carotenoid corn makes in the order of 50 micrograms per gram beta carotene. And just to put it in perspective, golden rice 2 accumulates 36 micrograms per gram beta carotene. The other thing that corn does, our high carotenoid corn does, that golden rice does not do, is that in addition to beta carotene, it also accumulates very high levels of lutein and zeaxanthin, and also lycopene, which is an anti-cancer carotenoid. So we have a line of corn which accumulates the four nutritionally important carotenoids at very high level.
Wow. I'm just thinking that it's a missed opportunity. Has there been any attempt to commercialize that in the United States, or it's already commercialized here?
Well, we don't have the resources.
Okay.
And in terms of commercializing a GM crop, even in the US, it's a very formidable task.
Yeah.
And there was a parallel program in the Harvest Plus program, where through conventional breeding, researchers at Purdue were able to develop a strain of corn which accumulated modest amounts of beta carotene, far below what our transgenic corn could accumulate. And if my memory serves me correctly, this was commercialized in Zambia as a non-GMO corn, but I haven't followed up, so I don't know if they still grow it in Zambia.
Yeah. Wow. Related to all this, while you've been pioneering plant molecular farming, biotechnology, you've trained a large number of students. Would you like to summarize where they all came from? And I've heard the number, it's way above 100.
Yeah, I mean, we have students from all over the world, but what I would like to say is, for example, now we had in the lab, just before the pandemic, 2 Chinese girls arrived to do her PhD, Xin and Wenshu. And it was really hard time because they arrived just before the pandemic, they couldn't live for 3 years. And the fact was that we had such a great relationship that now they are still with us doing her postdoc. Then yes, we do have students from all over the world. We have an excellent relationship with them. And what we are trying after is to get them positions or to help them to get positions all over the world. We have, I don't know, everywhere. It's nice.
Well, I mean, through the last 3.5 decades, we graduated over 150 PhD students, about 50 postdocs from 37 different countries.
Wow.
I'm proud to say that many of them achieved very high positions. 2 of them were former ministers of agriculture in Rwanda and Vietnam, respectively. We have a number of senior directors of prominent institutions in India, in China, in the Philippines, in a number of South American countries and others. So this is very rewarding, and we have maintained a very good relationship with pretty much all of them. I'm privileged to call a lot of them as friends, and as a matter of fact, some of them have started retiring already.
Yeah, it's just fascinating to think because in the US system, or at least, you can maximum 30, 40, but how did this happen? How did you open the whole world? Because you were based in Spain, and how did you, or maybe before that, before Spain you were in, of course.
Yeah, we should talk about the John Innes Fairs and the program we had with the Rockefeller Foundation.
Okay, so I started my career in industry. And I did the opposite of what most people do. I made the transition from industry to academia rather than the norm, which is, I guess, in most cases, going from academia to industry. So the reason I went to academia is because at Agrasidas, in addition to developing a transformation system for soya, we also used rice as a model system to develop genotype-independent systems for cereals in general, including corn. And we really managed to develop a genotype-independent transformation system for rice. And fortuitously, that was the time that the Rockefeller Foundation initiated its program on rice biotechnology. And a big component of that program was to train rice scientists from rice-growing countries from throughout the world on rice genetic transformation and biotechnology, so they could go back to their own countries and set up facilities and infrastructure to be able to practice rice biotechnology in their own countries. And the Rockefeller Foundation established 2 such training centers. One was at the laboratory of Roger Bicci and Claude Fouquet at Scripps in San Diego. And the other was at the John Innes Center in Norwich in the United Kingdom. And this is where I went with generous funding from the Rockefeller Foundation. And that's where we received a lot of trainees from all over the world. And then we continued our training program through funding from other sources, subsequently in Germany at the Fraunhofer Institute, and for the past 20 years in Spain through generous support from the Spanish government and the University of Lleida and the European Union.
That's wonderful. It's almost is reminiscent of some of the previous work done by Dr. Norman Borlaug, who used to be a professor at A&M, who actually received funding from the Rockefeller Foundation and then later by the Ford Foundation to really develop rust-resistant wheat. And people like me from India are alive because of that. And then we, of course, had scientists who also made rice dwarf varieties like Dr. Gurdev Kush as well. So yeah, it's a fascinating impact they've had. In fact, I'm a beneficiary of the Rockefeller Predoctoral Fellowship that brought me to the US in '99 to learn chloroplast engineering in rice as well. I went to the other Paul. I didn't. Yeah, no, this is really fascinating, and it's almost reminiscent of like a big banyan tree, which is really with all the roots everywhere around the world. And I think that's the impact of science that can happen. So you really made collectively a contribution to the world in that sense. And I know that this was the remnant from the Green Revolution days when we were trying to make sure that there are enough calories on the table. So the emphasis has been a lot on cereals. And since I'm in the Department of Horticultural Sciences, of course, I wanted to just speak to you about a little bit about any horticultural crops that you had a chance to work with while like any other model system like tomato or other fruit crops.
The thing is, Amit, when you said before about this program we've had transforming corn, even though we couldn't transfer to the technology to the company, we transferred the knowledge.
Yes.
Then we have this knowledge. Like when we were at the Johniness, we knew how to transform with the gun, and the gun is a physical meaning of introducing a transgene. What means any crop that you have a regeneration system, you can transform it. Yeah. Then we had colleagues doing pepper.
Oh.
Yeah, that they came. There were several that, because we not only had students, PhD students or postdoc, we had lots of visiting scientists just coming there, bringing their own tissue, using the gun, doing the transformation and leaving after 4 or 5 weeks with their own tissue transformed, and they would follow in their own countries the projects they had. I mean, then, we did some horticultural plants. I remember pepper.
We also tried oil palm.
Okay.
But I never followed up. I don't know if that in the end worked out. We had a project with cowpeas.
The sugar beet that we couldn't manage.
We had a step at sugar beet, which it was a very tough nut to crack.
But almost anything that could be bombarded, we would bombard. Whether we would transform it or not, perhaps we didn't succeed, but we tried. We tried lots of things.
But just to be fair, we never really engaged with horticultural crops because our focus has always been cereals, which are a handful by themselves.
Well, I wanted to say that I think the perspective of growing up in India during the times of food shortages in the 80s, I mean, generally the availability of food, not just in households, but just the general availability. And the idea was, let's first bring cereals. And ever since I've been in horticultural sciences since 2006, and then taking on this role here, it's becoming, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, is it's becoming apparent that our diet, which we are talking, there's a lot of emphasis now on nutrition. And just like you engineered corn, because most people everybody accesses cereals first. But in our cultures, if you go back to indigenous cultures around the world, they all had some mainstay horticultural crop, which was a permanent crop, or that's what they were growing vegetables. Do you think that might be another platform, or a better platform perhaps, to deliver some of the nutrition? Because phytochemicals, like fruits and vegetables and nuts, are naturally rich in some of these phytochemicals. What are your thoughts on that? Maybe Teresa, you can.
I mean, the thing is, each farming community is used to grow certain things, fine?
Yes, yes.
And it's difficult sometimes to introduce the new thing
Yeah,
that is
that's
required
true.
for the diet. Then, what I would say, I come from a Spain, where when I was little, we did had enough to eat. And it was good quality. But we were just farmers. We were sort of poor farmers that we wanted to go out of this minimal level of life. We wanted as well to have new clothes, the girls, and to go on holiday. Then for us, to acquire these new technologies, like to be able to plant hybrid corn,
Yeah.
mean more income,
Yes.
mean better level of life. Perhaps is not only about better nutrition. Countries where we already had our basic, we wanted a better level of life.
Yeah.
This is why now
Good
we
point.
miss these new technologies to being able to still be competitive.
Yeah,
Because my family were still farmers. We want to be competitive. Then we want to use the latest technologies.
Yeah.
And we are used to have a big variety of food. But one thing is the variety you have to eat. But the other is what you need to make money for the farm.
yeah.
And this is where you want to be competitive and
Yeah.
use the latest technologies.
Sure.
This is my general
Sure. No,
opinion
thank you.
about
Thank
this.
you.
Just to, absolutely
Yeah.
agree with that. But in addition, it makes perfect sense to try and endow crops grown locally with as many nutrients as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And in fact, that was the philosophy of the Harvest Plus program
Okay.
to a large extent.
Yeah.
And also the Gates Foundation. And you see that a number of labs throughout the world got funding and developed sweet potato, cassava,
Yes.
beans, and other vegetables for local sustainable production. So yes, it makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Well, I think it's also the habits, and I think some of the projects that Rockefeller Foundation was funding, for example, in the U.S. And Mexico, was to really reach out where subsistence farming. You
Right.
basically really need to survive first.
Yes.
The calorie needs. I think that's sort of continued, and the FAO just released their report on October 16th, which is the World Food Day. And they did say that they have not been able to meet, they have failed to meet the hunger and nutrition
Yep.
goalposts that they had set. And I think that's where, however, the conversation remains limited to cereals. And I think that's where we are realizing within our discipline that there is an opportunity. So we have certain programs here. Of course, our mission is around sustainability, wellness, and food security. Environment is a big part of sustainability, but also profitability for our farmers, whatever knowledge, because in the end, how will they adopt it? And then one leg of the sustainability is our students, actually. Without that, we can't sustain the future. Just like you shared that you have trained so many people around the world, and they've trained so many beyond that. So I think this is chain reaction.
Absolutely.
So in terms of wellness, which is both mental and physical health right now, more on the mental health side, because we are really facing, especially because of the pandemic, we're really facing those issues. So in terms of, as you have really reached that part of your career, would it be something different you would have done, knowing what you know today? I know it's a trick question.
No,
Not for you?
no,
Okay.
Damit. I would have done the same because at every moment I did my best
Yeah.
with the knowledge I had. And I worked as hard as I could because I always thought that at the end I would bring something back to my community. And I did.
Yeah.
Whether they can apply it or not is a different matter, but I brought the knowledge. And now my community has the knowledge and at least they can judge.
Yes.
And they know if this is something good or not. At least I brought the knowledge back.
Yeah.
Then, no, I wouldn't do anything else different.
Paul, what's your answer to that?
I agree with that. Looking back,
Yeah.
I feel that we did the right things at the right time.
Yeah.
Of course, we didn't have the tools, the technological tools, to do things better 30, 40 years ago. But looking back, the approach, the targets, I wouldn't change any of that.
Well, we were talking about wellness. Thank you for that. I mean, that's just a perspective, and I think this is very refreshing answer because you can't live two lives together. I mean, there's no way. But talking about wellness, I think a lot of the discussion is going around people's choices, the behavioral choices. We may create a lot of. I mean, there are healthy choices available in the developed world, yet that's where the epidemic of obesity, high blood pressure, or the metabolic disorders are at their maximum in the developed world. I mean, I know we're trying to meet the hunger and nutrition needs for the rest of the world, but in the developed part of the world, we are dealing with the overconsumption or wrong consumption. And that's where I think the idea of the space of science communication that you entered in as well. We'll talk about that in a second. How do we tackle, do you have any thoughts on that part? How do we change people's behavior rather than pick fast food versus less processed food or a fresh vegetable? Is there a change we can bring? I know this is a very global, big question.
I think the problem we are having, at least is what I see, is that every time we cook less at home, then because we cook less, we train our children less in what it was good healthy habits of eating. And we cook less at home because we are busier at work and doing more things. That is our good level of life that take us to do so many things that we forget our basics, that is to cook properly and to eat properly. Then to change this is difficult because nobody wants to stop going out for a drink or doing something extra just to be 1 hour more in the kitchen. Then, since we cannot change these habits, perhaps what we should make sure is that the food that we buy or we eat or all this will be healthier. Perhaps we should work on this side because for what I see, at least in Spain, every time we dedicate less time to cooking and more time to going out and to getting fast food, then I don't know how to address this.
Any thoughts, Paul?
Well, I think that's a very complex question. I think Teresa addressed it pretty well. However, I see very little we scientists, at least in our field, can do because we are not at the right position in the chain. I think there is a role here for nutritionists and professional communicators to try and instill in the younger generation that eating healthily at a young age would pay hefty dividends later in life. So I think you are talking about a strategy which would address changes in behavior more than anything else. And obviously, neither Teresa nor I, or probably nor you, have the expertise to address that. But this is why perhaps a more concerted effort needs to be mobilized to include many individuals with diverse expertise, including social sciences, to actually help with education by demonstrating the benefits of healthy food choices.
That's a very interesting point because of this lack of, there's a parallel in our science, right? People against anything that is genetically modified when actually all our crops have been improved through human interventions. That's a broader definition of genetic modification. And some of the scientists at least in the US or in the world, have taken the mental to go out and inform people, because I think that's a gap which brings a lot of, if a social scientist starts doing that suddenly, or any individual starts talking about technology in food, they become, I guess there's a pushback and a societal pushback on that. So it's kept a lot of people away from that field. But I think if you are to solve those goals of nutrition and hunger, we have to bring technology in the food as well. And I think that is a challenge. But I know that, Teresa, you've started using a very creative process or media to reach out to the masses, to appeal to them in a different way, rather than having a dialogue, or not even a dialogue, sometimes a debate, because that really doesn't get us anywhere. Could you share what your efforts have been recently?
Okay, the thing is, I realized that 300 years ago, nobody could take pictures.
That's right.
Yeah, we didn't have mobiles, we didn't have TV. And then artists had to explain science through paintings.
Yes.
And this is still real today. You see a painting of 200 or 300 years ago with a fruit or a lettuce or something, a plant, and the painter painted the disease this plant was having, either a little worm, either a yellow mark, something, and he's telling you 300 years ago we already had this disease.
Yeah.
But you are seeing it in a painting. Then I thought, perhaps I should do the same. Perhaps I should paint our genetically engineered products, put them in a painting, and perhaps people will just looking at them would accept them like they accept, 300 years ago we had this disease, we still have it now. Oh, we have this orange core.
Yeah.
Fine, perhaps this is something that always has been there. Then what I'm trying is I'm converting the results of the laboratory in oil paintings. Then I do prints and I do distribute them all over the place, hoping that somebody is looking at them as a piece of art that is combining a message about science.
Yeah. So how has that been perceived? Because of course you distributed beyond the community, beyond our scientific community.
One, I have to tell you, I visit the Weizmann Institute in Israel, and I saw one of my paintings hanging there.
Wow.
I go directly there and say, oh, this is fantastic. And everybody looking at me and saying, oh, you like the painting as well? I say, yes, of course I like it. I did it. And it was like everybody was shocked, and I was shocked. We were all shocked. But for me, it was fantastic because
Absolutely.
people liked it.
Yeah.
And the same at the Max Planck in Gol. There is a meeting room where there is all the paintings are hanging in there.
Yeah.
And they are like a piece of conversation.
I
And
had
even myself.
I had one of our common connections come to my office and see your painting. They said, "Oh, do you know Teresa?"
Yeah, fine, okay. But I think this, because then is a piece of conversation. And if you talk about something, if you talk a lot about something, then it became something natural.
Yeah.
If you don't talk about it, it's a taboo. But if you talk about it, then it just became part of your daily life. Then this is the only idea I had, that I thought perhaps talking about transgenics every day when you go to places, then they will just become part of our culture.
What Teresa didn't mention is what I think is an even is what she did had an impact at a different level as well.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of our research, we very often host visits by local and national politicians in the lab. And Teresa, as a matter of fact, got invited to the Spanish Congress by the chair of the Agriculture Committee to talk about GMOs. And there have been many opportunities like that to interact with congressmen, senators, ministers in Spain and elsewhere. And then I can tell you, whenever Teresa goes, she always carries a huge bag
the painting
with
of my art,
prints
because then,
of her art. She distributes them, and without exception, the response is overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
and they hang them in walls to
beautiful.
show it. That means after they are going to talk about them, and this is the objective.
I think so. In a way, you extend the shelf life or the half-life of the topic and the conversation for as long as the painting is in their room. People are going to ask because they are striking, they are beautiful, and they go, "What is that?" I've had that happen to me in my office. Previously, they would say, "What is this?" And then I would say, "Let me tell you the story."
Fine, okay, thank you.
And here are my other paintings as well.
Thank you. But
that's
yeah,
fascinating.
it has been an effort of the last 20 years because now when I have 5 minutes, of course I sit and I paint.
Yeah. No, this is fascinating. I wanted to just wrap it up and just talk a little bit about how, I mean, this is a very global question. None of us have answers, but we all think about how can we contribute and what can we do. So I have like a two-part question. First of all would be, as you've obviously now continuing to contribute to science in a different way or in a different capacity. How are we going to secure the goal that the world the food FAO has for hunger and nutrition? How are we going to fulfill that? I mean, it's 2030 is not that far away. Population is growing. I mean, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, yeah. I mean, you see, I mean, the various agencies, including the UN, remember with the Sustainable Development Goals, there have been targets set for food and nutrition, and elimination or reduction of poverty, and we have never to date been able to meet those targets. I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I'll phrase it in a positive way by saying that I will be overwhelmed if the 2030 target to achieve elimination of hunger or to achieve nutrition, better nutrition by 2030 is met. I'm not optimistic, but let's be positive and hope that we'll continue getting closer. Now, what can we do? I don't think a single individual can do much. I think it would take concerted actions involving public-private partnerships, and there is a role of the private sector to get involved. And perhaps by engaging more actors, things can advance a little bit faster and the goals can be met a little bit easier.
Teresa, your thoughts on that?
Me, I'm going to be a little bit tougher, fine? These goals are always set up by wealthy countries.
That's the truth.
And the pressure to achieve them is not the same pressure that they have the countries that they need it.
Very well said,
Yeah. Then, if we achieve them, it's fine. If we don't achieve them, it's cruel, but it's fine because we set them up. And I think it's not fair. We try to sort out their problems, but we shouldn't try. We should help them to help themselves to sort them out. And I think this is the point. We are very idealistic in Europe. We say one thing, we do another one. Then I don't know what is the answer.
Well, we don't, because that's why we haven't met the target. So, I mean, I feel there's a bigger role for the younger generation to be inspired and be pushing for this and think of us as a global community, because unrest in other parts then tends to balance out in calmer parts, because this is how the world operates or has operated historically. So in that respect, I mean, I'm of course thinking about horticulture, which can provide economic. So smallholder farmers definitely do grow tomatoes and vegetables because they're high value, low volume, high value crops. And I think we have some ag economists who have mentioned that if you really want to revive an economy and also have the nutritional needs met, because if you have better money, we were talking about earlier, you can then have access to other things. So how do you really revive smallholder farming economies is through low volume, high value crops, which would be fruits, vegetables, nuts, annual crops, permanent crops, a combination of all those. In that sense, do you think the discipline, of course I'm asking you to endorse my discipline, but also what's the message to our younger generation? Because a lot of them are thinking, I'm going to just go on AI or do something else, but getting involved in food. I mean, what message would you like to give to our students or people who are interested in pursuing higher education in promoting horticulture, agriculture?
The message will be, whatever you do, have an objective and achieve it. Fine?
Yeah.
Work hard to achieve your objective. If you achieve your objective, then you will be able to help everybody else because you will achieve your objective. If you don't achieve your objective, then just work hard, achieve your objective, and then you will be able to achieve more objective.
I mean, in addition to that, I would say that I have great faith and hope in the new generation, the younger generation, because they come with an advantage. And they come with many advantages, but probably one of the most important advantages is that they are more technologically astute than our generation. And perhaps they can think out of the box and they can offer new approach, new strategies, new ways of doing things. And perhaps they can do better in areas we could have done better.
Yeah.
So yes, I would definitely encourage the younger generation of horticultural, agricultural scientists, and I'm sure they will have the technical expertise, way of thinking, and drive to contribute substantially to all these goals.
Yeah. Well, with that, I just want to thank both of you and congratulations to you for your retirement, which is promotion in a way as well.
I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate to congratulate somebody for retiring.
That's what they.
I'm not sure. I need to think about that.
Okay.
But thank you anyway. You've been very kind, and we appreciate the opportunity to share with you some of our thoughts and ideas in this field.
You know, and also you brought a very good European perspective to this, because access to nutrition is a global issue, and this really adds to what we've been discussing through this podcast, actually. So I really want to thank both of you, and congratulations on all the work you've done, contributions, and I'm sure this will continue. You've already planted the seeds all around the world,
No,
and plantlets, because in horticulture usually we have propagated plants. So you've done that, and of course I've been a beneficiary of your mentoring as well. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Horticultural Innovators. Subscribe if you want to learn more and spread the good word. Thanks and Gary.